Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome or welcome back to the Will Mac Wire. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are bringing back one of our most popular guests from season 2 in today's episode of the Will Mac Wire. And given how fast the AI landscape has moved since we last talked a little bit over a year ago, it felt like a no-brainer to have him back. And we'll probably have him on again in the future. We recorded this episode in person at Rockfox Studios as well. That first one was virtual, so it was even a more fruitful conversation. Today, you can expect to hear from Kevin Surace, AI pioneer, inventor, and one of the most recognized voices on disruptive innovation. If you haven't listened to his first episode, you can find it in season 2, episode 6, which aired in March 2025. Like I said, the conversation was very different back then, which is just incredible to be living this history. So here's what you can expect out of today's conversation with Kevin. We discuss what has changed within AI since we last spoke. We discussed your generative AI, your agentic AI, recursive AI, the model wars that are going on. Kevin, he really broke it down, and Steve got super into it. We talked about the power players, your OpenAIs, Anthropics, Perplexity, Grok. And you'll hear Kevin call me out about Gemini, but where things stand and what Kevin is actually using in terms of AI. We also discussed the fear narrative around AI and why so many companies are still paralyzed and not moving on it. And we also discussed Kevin's work here in Rochester and what he's doing, which one of those things being a new book that he has dropping September 1st that we like to chat about. But I will let him tell you about it. Kevin, thanks for joining us. We're excited to have you back again in the future. For our listeners, this is a great, really educational episode on AI. So let's just get into it. Welcome to the Will Mac Wire. I'm Emily Miller, joined by my co-host, Steve McDonald. On this show, we talk with the drivers, the leaders, innovators, and decision makers pushing customer interaction technology and AI forward. And because we're proud to call Western New York home, we also spotlight the drivers in our own community, the people and organizations shaping growth and innovation right here. Let's get into it. Joining us here in person at Rockfox Studios in Rochester, New York. He's originally from the Syracuse area and an RIT alum. He's now one of the most recognized voices on AI and disruptive innovation in the world. He's known as the father of the virtual assistant. His work at General Magic in the late 90s laid the foundation for Siri, Alexa, and Google Assistant. He's the holder of 94 worldwide patents across AI, cybersecurity, sustainable building tech, and more. He's currently serving as chairman and CTO of Advanced.ai, pioneering generative AI for software quality assurance. I'm almost there. He's an Inc. magazine Entrepreneur of the Year, CNBC Innovator of the Decade, World Economic Forum Tech Pioneer, and inductee of the RIT Innovation Hall of Fame. And he's got a new book dropping September 1st. Welcome back to the Will Mac Wire, Kevin Surace.
Thanks for having me back.
We're glad to have you back, Kevin. This time you're in person in Rochester. I think last time we spoke, you were in Hawaii,
out
on a beautiful
Maui.
balcony.
Yes, you were jealous.
I was jealous. I was painfully pale.
You actually wanted to do it in person.
Yes, I did.
He wouldn't let you.
It's funny because we were just at a conference last week and we talked to quite a few folks from Hawaii and we were like, oh, it's got to be an on-site visit,
yes,
right?
Absolutely. It's where everybody wants to go.
For sure. Well, yeah, and for our listeners, like I mentioned, Kevin's a return guest on the Will Mac Wire, and his original episode aired in season 2. It was episode 6, March 6th, 2025. So we're a little over a year past, but a lot has changed since then. So we've got a bunch of conversational topics to chat about today. But before we get into that, we always like to do a brief icebreaker. It's called This or That. I have 3 questions for you, and I'm going to pose you 2 options for each question, and then you basically choose and explain why.
Okay.
So very easy peasy. Okay, first one. Rochester in the summer or Rochester in the fall?
Fall.
Okay, why?
It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. Look, spring, summer, fall are great. I mean, it's a little bit of a secret. We laugh about this sometimes with others in Rochester, right? It's like, don't tell everyone that it's actually a really nice place to live most of the year, right?
Yep.
If you can deal with a January, February, you're going to love it compared to almost anywhere else in the country.
Right.
So we feel very lucky, but fall is magical.
It is.
As we know.
Yeah. I was about to say the past few mornings, it's been like low 70s and a little cloudy. And I'm like, it feels like fall. And then last week, late June, early July, it was 90s. It was rough.
Half the country had 90s. But we're back. It was 68 this morning, having breakfast outside. It was lovely.
Yeah, it was lovely. All right. First one done. Next one, speaking at a conference or writing a book.
Oh, speaking at a conference.
Yeah.
Yes. This is my first book. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
And my last book.
I was going to be one of my questions for you. I figure, I mean, writing a book, it's a process.
Yes, it is a process, and you have to decide why you want to do it. Most book writers, with all due respect, right? Most book writers that I know go, well, I've written this thing, and it's going to be a New York Times bestseller because it blah, 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 blah. And they're hoping to make money on it. They're hoping. That is not why you write a book. I didn't know this, 300,000 new books hit a month. Ooh. In the U.S., 300,000 a month. The chance of you being a New York Times bestseller is 1 in 300,000 or 10 in 300,000. It's not going to happen, right? Unless you're a real name brand. Yeah. I do it because of my keynote talks. So this is some of my keynote talks are on the intersection of humans in the workplace and AI. Yeah. And so many humans are having a hard time with AI. No, you're not. You're used to it. We're in the tech world. But most of the surveys are very clear. People are very concerned about their jobs, about their future, about their kids, and then they lose their sense of purpose. They go, what's my sense of purpose? Because AI took it away. And where do I? And that's what this book really deals with. Cool. It brings joy back to what you do.
I love it. Okay, and last one, potentially a little bit tougher and more than 2 options. I had OpenAI or Anthropic or Perplexity or Grok. Do you have a preferred AI model?
I use all of them and Gemini.
Figured.
You left Gemini out.
Yeah, left Gemini
out. Poor Google. Never write off Google. They have more money and more data than virtually anyone except for Microsoft. We shouldn't write off Microsoft.
They're struggling.
Microsoft. They have their own problems, but never write them off. Like Apple, right? They're late to the game, but they usually win. So, look, over the last year, we've seen the world shift from OpenAI is way in the lead to then Gemini for 6 months was way in the lead on many metrics. And then lately Claude is way in the lead. And Claude is so I use today Fable because Fable's alive again. I came back, so I'm using Fable. But they're in the lead because they've done more recursive or reinforcement learning or reinforcement programming than others have. Yeah. And so everybody's in that game. And for those listening, what that means is I have my own coding engine improving my own foundational model and doing that over and over again. So now we're seeing releases come every few weeks. And if I believe what Anthropic said, possibly 80% of the improvements in say Fable or Mythos were actually totally written by itself. It wrote itself and improved itself. Right. So we're getting into this self-improvement category. We knew that would happen. We're doing that with robots, of course, reinforcement learning, of course, instead of the old way to do it. So I think we're likely to see this thing really move quickly until we see an asymptote. And there will be an asymptote because there's only so much material to learn on. And we've learned on virtually all of the 10 trillion tokens there are out there, and we're going to run out, right? Yeah. So there's probably some asymptoting of this type of a transformer. Cool. But anyway,
you don't think one will start running away? You think it'll turn into a whole? I think it
turns into a
commodity. Yeah.
It's commodity. Yeah, and they don't want to hear.
They definitely don't want to
hear
that.
Yeah.
Especially Anthropic and OpenAI don't have the cash flows these other guys have.
Oh, they have cash flow out. Not as much in. I mean, you have to raise a lot. When you're losing 10 or 20 billion a year, it's a lot of money. By the way, the numbers we were talking about today, even, SpaceX or XAI, all of that conglomeration that went public at, peaked at a couple of trillion or so. These numbers are extraordinary. If we were here 10 years ago and I even used something with a T on it, you would have laughed me out of the room. And now we've got some people predicting that one of these foundational companies could be worth 10 or 20 or 30 trillion with a T.
Yikes.
I don't even know how to judge that, but God bless.
Well,
go for it.
Is it Dario or Sam Altman saying if they don't get to a trillion soon, they can't function as a company?
Well, that's right. Yeah. And the other thing that's happening is, of course, revenue's up, right?
Yeah.
All these guys are doing, 20, 30 billion, which is amazing because they've only released the product in the last 3 years or so.
Right.
And in 3 years, right, if your company, and maybe your company did in 3 years go from 0 to 30 billion, but no companies have ever done that in the history of ever, right? And these guys have done that. So these are clearly products that are wanted, but there's been some pushback. Just in the last couple of months, you start to see these companies who all push their employees, use. We're going to measure you on usage. Then they got the bill. Yeah. And all of a sudden, they had a $120 million token bill from Anthropic. And they go, whoa, we could have hired engineers for that. And it turns out that at some point, your engineers, each dev, let's say, and let's just take coding, each coder, each developer is using 2 or 3 times their salary in tokens.
Yep.
And you go, I thought they're supposed to save money. And what happened, a couple things happened. One, people finally figured out how to use it for everything. And some people anyway. And the second thing is that all of the frontier models stopped doing a $20 a month eat all you can model.
Right.
And they go, we're going to go broke doing this. So they started charging by the token. And all of a sudden, you had a $100,000 a month bill for a single person instead of a $20 a month bill. And everybody choked. So, water finds its own level, right?
Well, that's going on right now. I feel like that in the enterprise companies are kind of
pull back,
pulling back, which should be interesting. And a lot of people don't necessarily say, as you were saying, people are learning. Sometimes you don't need the power of.
Well, that's right. Look, I would say most office workers could use the power of an open source free model running on, a small set of GPUs internally, right? Or at Amazon or whatever. So the idea that you're going to spend this much for tokens is probably going to be limited to really complex things. Now, look, if you really want your coders to be 80 to 90% more productive than they were 2 years ago, you're using the latest Claude code, the latest model that they can put you on, right? No question. But other than that, an office worker that's basically doing spell check should not be spending those tokens. So this is all working itself out live as we sit here today. And if we come back a year from now, we'll say, oh, that one was solved. Yeah. And now agents are 2025 was supposed to be the year of agents. It was not. 2026 is the year of agents, and everyone's running into all kinds of concerns, security concerns, and which we can talk about a lot. There's my token ring on my finger here. So lots going on in that space, but 2026 has become a year of agents in some areas of enterprise.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, if anyone from Google is listening, I apologize, and I hope you can join us on the podcast so we can talk about Gemini. I appreciate you humoring us and doing that icebreaker, Kevin. We're gonna just dive a little bit briefly into your career journey since we hit on it a lot in our previous episode. But I guess you were working on virtual assistants in the late 90s.
Late 90s.
So when we talked about it, when most people didn't even know what that meant.
Some of us in this room weren't alive when I was working on virtual assistants.
But what pulled you into that world?
Yeah, well, like all good products, and I think the same is true with your company, you're looking to fill a pain point that people have.
Yes. Don't
invent things and this happens in Silicon Valley all the time. Like I said, there's 5,000 or so funded AI companies, of which 4,900 will be dead, right? And they all invented something interesting or added some value. They didn't solve a pain point. You got to go solve a real pain point that people have money to pay for, right? And when you do that, people pay you and you grow a big company. And when you don't do that, it's cool technology, but nobody pays you. So we were trying to solve a pain point. Cell phones just became relatively ubiquitous, not smartphones. They were Motorola flip phones and things like that, right? Mid 90s. The internet just hit 1995. The World Wide Web as we knew it then, that just hit in 1995. So people moved from AOL and CompuServe to, hey, what's this web thing? They were still dialing up on AOL, but at work you had the web now. And at work something else happened. You had now email that worked across enterprises for the first time in the late 90s. You actually had email.
Right.
Before that, you might have had it internally only, but you didn't have email worldwide. All of a sudden you had email, you had calendaring, you had contacts, and you had it all, and it was internet connected by 97 or so. That's a game changer, but here was the problem. No one had a computer at home.
Right.
You didn't have a smartphone, so you left work and you had no contacts, no calendar, literally no calendar.
Right.
And no email. You literally stopped.
Yeah.
And so when people were in the car, they wanted access to this stuff. Where am I supposed to go? What's the address? Who am I, whatever. And they had no ability to do that.
Right.
And screens were very expensive and you couldn't look at a screen. So we said, well, if everybody could have their own secretary, they would have called their secretary, which is what C-level execs did. And they called Mary, and Mary would say, yes, next on your calendar is this, and you need to be there at 3 p.m., and here's who you're going to be meeting. And I go, well, we'll just invent one of those that's virtual. That will be, $89 a month instead of $300 a day or whatever the price was. And so that's what we did. We solved a pain point, and we had millions of people on the first system, 3.5 million people or so. Portico, MyTalk, Magic Talk. It also got licensed to GM, and GM had the virtual advisor that would read your email in your car. Stuff like this was part of the OnStar virtual advisor. So we solved a real pain point that people had, and I don't know, had 15 or 20 or 30 patents out of all of that eventually got licensed. To Intellectual Ventures, Nathan Myhrvold, who then licensed them to Apple and everybody else.
How'd you start the company?
It was a public company. It spun out of Apple. Literally, General Magic was, the whole team was part of Apple Computer at the time was part of Apple, and spun out to do stuff that was so advanced that they wouldn't do it at Apple.
Got it.
And it was backed by Apple.
Okay.
And Apple ultimately had to license the stuff back because they didn't get a free license to it.
Yeah.
We invented three big things there. At the time called the PDA, but it looked an awful lot close to an iPhone, and the drawings looked like an iPhone. So we were the first to have it 10 years before the iPhone. We invented agents and a language for them called Telescript. So that agents could act autonomously, and very much like AI agents today, they weren't as smart. They were programmed. They were probably a little closer to RPA, if people know what that is, than agents of today. But it was called agents and agentic technology. So we invented the concept for that, and we invented the AI virtual assistant. All came out of that company.
Wow.
And we spent hundreds of millions of dollars developing all this cool stuff and putting it out there. Some of it licensed, some of it as our own products. And it was an amazing deal, actually. And it was a great place to work because of the inventions. And so lots of people came, like Tony Fadell, came out of General Magic to go on to create the iPod and the iPad and the iPhone later at Apple, right? Lots of people came out of General Magic. The inventor, the creator of the Android operating system was at General Magic, then left and started his own company to create a mobile operating system, then sold that and went to Google to do Android. eBay came out of there. Pierre Omidyar developed eBay under his desk at General Magic and then left. So it had all these amazing people, and all these huge startups came out of what was General Magic and all this big technology. So I feel like really humbled to have led the team that invented the AI assistant.
Yeah, that's amazing. So it came out of Apple, so you didn't need to go to a VC or anything to
There were no VCs. It was funded by Apple and about 11 other partners, people like Panasonic and Mitsubishi and all partners around the Motorola. Everybody put money in because then they could get a license to certain things and access to certain technology. It was a technology powerhouse. It was like the Bell Labs of Silicon Valley. And then we did go to the public market. Then we went public. And then we went to the public markets for money as well. So there were kind of mezzanine financiers and things like that, but not traditional VC. There was no traditional VC in there. And it was well funded. I think we spent about $100 million developing the first virtual assistant. And I helped raise that money, and everybody couldn't believe that you could do it. And then the first time I remember being on stage and we unveiled it, and I'm talking to her, her name was Mary, and I'm interrupting her, and I'm actually rude to her, and she would stop if I interrupted her because we made it interruptible.
Yeah.
And people went, WTF. Like they literally, the jaws dropped. They had never heard anyone talk to, they knew it was a computer, but talk to a computer. And she was very friendly. And she could say thousands and thousands and thousands of things back, but not unlimited. It was, we put it together with a set of logic because we had AI, but we didn't have the level of Gen AI that we have today, right? We had hidden Markov models. We didn't have Gen AI. I didn't have a transformer. And lastly, the fun thing about that is we had to build our own operations center. There's no such thing as the cloud at the time. There is no AWS. There's nothing. There's no Azure. So we built our own ops center. I got to build an ops center. We built the servers. They were very specialized servers. We had to build them in-house.
Where it was all in Silicon Valley?
Sunnyvale. Yeah, built it in Sunnyvale. I don't know, we had 3,000 servers in there or something. There's a video of me, if you look online, like running through the server farm, basically. And, we had to put in all of these Liebherr chiller units to cool the whole thing down. Every watt that comes in has to come back out, as it turns out. So it was a great project.
What you mentioned, you solved for something practical. There was a problem, and you went for it. We were just talking about these companies getting valued at trillions of dollars. And what we kind of see now with venture, talk of Silicon Valley, venture capitalism, and even some PE at this point, they're only going for the unicorns.
Yes, that's right. So, decacorns.
Like
that's right.
Where before it was like, hey, you have something practical. We know
that's right.
You can make money on this. It may not get to $1 trillion. Now it's like, it better be going public in 3-4 years.
Right.
So that leaves a lot of companies either
begging.
Yeah.
I can answer that. No question. I Vinod Khosla talked about this recently. So it used to be if you did a seed round, that was very small. It was under $1 million, and you'd be valued at $5 million or some number like that. Then you do your A round, and it'd be a few $1 million, and maybe you'd be valued at 7 or 8 million. I mean, there's numbers like that, or 10 or. Okay, well, now the whole thing is, if this is going to be hot and it's really going to go to $1 trillion or 100 billion, I don't care what the valuation is. That's the attitude of the VCs. Like, if you come in and say, I have no product, but I've got this team, and we're going to be worth 100 billion, and our seed round is at $1 billion, and we're raising 50 million. Okay, a Vinod may go, okay, fine. I just want a piece of it. Because when you run the math, it doesn't matter. If the thing goes to 100 billion or $1 trillion, you're going to pay back your entire fund. So it's a moot point whether the thing is worth 50 million or 100 million or $500 million. It doesn't really matter anymore. So that's the new play. Now, not every VC can play that. That's A16Z, and it's Khosla, and it's the large Sierra, et cetera. Right, Sequoia. So it's the larger funds, but that's the play they're playing, and they're willing to put a lot of money to work. Look, A16Z's got, I don't know, 60 billion under management. I can't remember, but rough numbers. 600, 800 employees. That's a VC. All right, that's not your normal VC. For those of us who've ever called on Sand Hill Road, your normal VC had 3 or 4 partners, and they had 100 or 200 million under management, and now we're talking numbers that are crazy, but they are returning on those funds. And SpaceX for I mean, there's VCs that I know that put in 10 million, 20 million, and it returned 1.5 billion. And you go, and the fund was only a couple $100 million. It returned the fund times 8x or 6x or 7x, and you go, we're done. Like, this is fantastic. And even the carry on that, which is the piece that an individual venture capital person may keep, they keep 20% of what was over and above the return, right? They get 20% of that. 20% of several billion is a good number. And I know several individuals who made personally about $1 billion on the SpaceX IPO. Personally. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It just is, right? They played the game, but they were in the game at a time when one could do this. If you were in the game 10 years before, 20 years before, 30 years before, couldn't do it, and maybe 10 years from now, but there's this pocket, there's this window that it still can work out that way.
Yeah, and SpaceX, to a lot of these guys' credit, I mean, what was that, 2003? Technically,
Oh yeah, this thing's a 20-something years
that
old.
was like 10 years of complete struggle. People were still like, yeah, this could work. It
was going out of business many times. It was a 23-year struggle.
So they had
so VCs really risked. Most of the VCs who risked it were already in Tesla. And they were willing to follow along and say, if anyone's going to get rockets and make money on this. But that's at a time when the defense industry and NASA, they were not buying anything other than the biggest defense contractors. Yeah. So the idea that you could start a new rocket company looked ludicrous. And I've known Elon, although I haven't seen him lately. He's busy now. He's a trillionaire, so he doesn't talk to me anymore. But at the time, he had a vision. He thought rockets could be fully reusable. He thought the way to do that was not with some government contract up front, that you'd have to just get there. And then once you proved it, you'd get kilograms to orbit for a tenth the price of anyone in the world. That dream came true. But it took, over 10 years to make any of them work at all. It was 10 years of billions of dollars down the tubes. So now, but here's what that taught VCs. It taught VCs that some of these risks are actually worth it, right? They're actually worth that play. Because if you have the right leader and they're willing to walk through brick walls like the ones behind us, and they're willing to walk through walls, once in a while, one of them's going to walk through that wall and return $1 trillion. And it was worth risking, 50 or 100 million on that.
Yeah. And even moving forward, I know the general public is probably has their opinions on Elon, but he's not a man I'd ever bet against.
Well, that's the thing. I haven't bet with him any time, is unfortunate. So every time I looked at Tesla, I said, overpriced. The numbers don't, right? The PE numbers don't work, right? The ratios don't work. And ultimately markets tend to go back to their PE ratios of 10x or 12x or 6x or whatever it is in someone's in, maybe 20x in a good year. So, 800x never made any sense to me. I go, I can't do it. And I was wrong every time. All I had to do was invest at any time. But I also said that about Nvidia. And all I had to do was invest at any time in the last 20 years, and it would have worked out just fine. So you can't win them all. And it does show you that the traditional market metrics may not always play out in the investor's psyche. Yeah. Because in the end, what's a price? A price is what anyone's willing to pay. And Americans are willing to pay a lot of money for an Elon company. And they're willing to be at 800x PE ratio. I don't care. So it's really fascinating.
Yeah, the Nvidia thing's fascinating. That's also, it was like 93. I read an article recently. Who was thinking of building chips back then?
Right. Well,
and the capital that goes into it.
Right.
And still, when Nvidia was popular 3-4 years ago, half the world didn't know what the heck it did.
So being in Silicon Valley, we knew the company, right? And the thing was, and I even bet against them a couple of times. Here's the thing is they're in the GPU business, and GPUs were needed to put graphics on a screen. That's the business they're in. Here's the background on that. So they had that. AMD had GPUs, Intel to a lesser extent. And what happened is, as AI came along, the math to do AI, which is vector math, is similar enough to the way a GPU processes vectors for the screen, basically math for the screen, right? And so engineers developing AI and Gen AI and transformers and deep learning said, well, what silicon is out there that we can use? CPUs are dead slow. They don't process that math in the right way. Oh, there's these GPUs that are putting graphics on screen. You know what? We can adapt what we do to that, and it'll work pretty well. And so then that became the standard through CUDA, which is a software package software interface that Nvidia has, became the standard way to do training and inference because there was nothing else out there. Now there's TPUs coming, there's other stuff coming. But so he kind of, Nvidia fell into this. They didn't come out with the GPU and say, this is for AI. No. They said, this is for
video
graphics
games and stuff.
And video games and those kinds of things. And then they realized over in this corner, there's all these weird people doing this odds of deep learning or something, and they're using our chips. And they didn't pay much attention because they used 10 chips one year. Then they used 10,000. And then they used 1 million. They go, hold it, that is the market. The heck with graphics, right? So they fell into it, and they smartly. He's a great manager, great CEO, but no one thought that company would be worth 3 or 4 trillion, which is worth more than the entire rest of the semiconductor industry combined, all of it.
And they're printing money. They're very profitable compared to a lot of these.
Well, they're at, all their chips are 50 to 70 points of margin, as they should be. Yeah. But they were never designed to do this kind of volume, and they're sold out for the next year and a half. And it's a good place to be. May we all be so lucky.
I think it was last week. I was reading somewhere that they're thinking about jumping into the foundation model.
Yes.
And maybe with an open model.
With an open model that really, they may need to do that because some of these foundation models are going to build underpinnings that don't just use CUDA. And once you do that, so there's an open source version of CUDA that AMD is promoting, and the AMD GPUs are substantially less expensive. And that's number one. And number two, now you got TPUs coming, and Amazon's got that, Google's got it, and they actually process at a lower cost, basically, than a GPU, because GPU wasn't really meant to do this. So if these foundational models move away, if the frontier models move away and say, we support CUDA, but we will also support this, well, then the wheels could come off the bus for Nvidia. And so they may need their own model to say, but ours is better in these ways, and it only runs on CUDA. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
This is a complicated. I know we got very technical for probably a non-technical audience.
I love going deep in it.
I was just say, yes.
They're rolling their eyes.
Was
what is CUDA? What is that? Barracuda? No. All right, let's leave the technical realm.
No, I was just going to bring us back to, when we talked in March, a little over a year ago, in 2025, generative AI was the conversation. We were just talking about how people thought the AI agents would be the hot thing in 2025, and now it's much more so in 2026, where it's becoming the hot topic. You talked a little bit about recursive AI. The landscape is just shifting at a wild speed. So how are you using these different types day to day, and where do you see it kind of continue to progress?
Well, first of all, us around this table are using AI. You're using Gen AI all the time.
Right.
I have a rule: 5 times an hour, use AI. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say that to people is they look at me, 99% of the country literally looks at me and says, I use it 5 times a month. What do you mean 5 times an hour? What would I do? I said, trust me, one of your competitors is using it 5 times an hour. Okay.
Yeah.
So first of all, I default to AI and everything. Yeah. I don't default to Word, Excel, or like if I'm going to build an Excel spreadsheet, I go to AI and say, build me an Excel spreadsheet that does the following. Here's the data. Here's the input. Yep. I don't need to remember the syntax for that formula anymore. And, we all pull our hair out on that.
Yeah.
We all know how to use Excel, and we all don't know how to use Excel. and you have to look up the formula, and you have to go somewhere. And no, AI, fix this for me, right? What's wrong with this formula? Fix the formula. So everything I do starts with AI. Mm-hmm. And that includes my Broadway work. If I'm working now on a show, either writing a show, editing a show, or anything, AI is my partner in doing that.
Right.
I will create an AI model of someone like Jesse Green, who was the New York Times critic, reviewer for all opening nights on Broadway, right? And I say, read all of everything he's ever done, and then build a model like him, and then analyze the show as if it's opening night. And by the way, here's the music, listen to it.
Yeah.
Because it'll take the MP3s, it'll listen to it digitally, not in the way ears do, and it'll analyze it, and it'll say, let me pick this apart. This is a terrible show, and then what you do is you start working it, and you work the show in another model. And so you're writing parts of it. I find that I'm writing, but AI is writing some of it too, or it's making changes. And so what I end up with is potentially a book that I no longer exactly remember which word I wrote and which word AI helped me edit and rewrite, or which few lines I said, I've got a writer's block here. What should I say here? It goes boom, 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 boom. I go, oh yeah, perfect. Keep going. Right. So what you can't do is you can't go to AI and say, write me a musical. It doesn't, it'll write junk. But you can say, I'm writing a musical and here's my story arc. What's wrong with the story arc? How do I improve the story arc? How do I, and then you've got an improved story arc. Then you say, from this story arc, let's look at scene 1. What should scene 1 be? And you've got a bunch of things you go back and forth. And then you go, okay, let's write out some of scene 1. Let's, and so this collaborative effort is really brilliant. So I use it that way. I use it sparring. Obviously, I analyze everything I do. So if I've written whatever I've written, I will give it to AI and say, analyze this, poke holes in it. What's wrong with it? I'm now doing all of my keynote presentations in AI, and AI is, so I'm writing the presentation. I'm saying, here are the things I want to say.
Right.
Now, generate 60 slides for me. Now, until 3 or 4 months ago, it was junk. It was junk, including including Microsoft PPT. I mean, it'll kind of do it, but it was not impressive.
Right.
And then I used Manus for a while, and it was okay. And then I used Notebook AI a lot for podcast generation and stuff like that.
Right.
And it generated some very interesting slides that have all kinds of charts and graphs, but it's too much, too busy, and I can't unbusy it. And then Claude Design, which is kind of separate from Claude. You know what it is.
Oh, I love Claude.
Claude Design came out, Claude AI-/design. And the UI isn't perfect, but it generates stunning, beautiful slides to your own brand.
Yes.
And once you set up the brand, and it knows all the rules about alignment and all of this, once you do that and you say, generate 60 slides, it'll come back with a bunch of questions, and here's the audience, and here's what I want to do. And I need you to research the following things for statistics. I don't need to go research those anymore.
Yeah.
And I might have to wait an hour, and it creates all the slides, and they're gorgeous. Now, so I think about my keynotes, and I think this is true with everyone listening. Everyone does slideware, right? Everyone has to do slides. And you spend not 90% of your time thinking about what you wanted to say. You knew what you wanted to say. You spent 90% of the time laying the dumb slides out
for sure.
word by word, and and they all look like crap because none of us are designers. You may be, but most of us are designers.
Yeah.
And so now I have a designer at my side for $20 a month that generates 10, 20, 30, 40, up to 60 slides in a deck or a section. That's a game changer. Yeah. So I don't spend time on the design. I spend time on what is it that I want to say, and then just go say it to this audience. And then I edit it. And here's the other new thing. Instead of me bringing that into PowerPoint and editing in PowerPoint, why? I can now edit in natural language. I leave it in Claude Design and say, change this way, change that. And when it's all done there, I export it to PowerPoint to play on my computer. Right. You get this because you're doing that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We love Claude Design.
We love Claude Design. One of the girls on my team has been using it to create like explainer video animations, which has been a game changer. None of us are video designers. Like you said, brand alignment across the organization. It's saving us hours and hours.
It's not good for the external person that you used to hire that did that little video for you.
Right. No, but in the same capacity, those people too, if they start to lean into it, they can produce more, and then the people can outsource and utilize them.
That's right. And we can talk about that. We should talk about people and jobs and all of that.
Yeah.
Not good for Figma.
Not good.
So that's been my thinking. Like Figma needed to complete their sale to Adobe, and it was really the U.S. government that was standing in the way of that. Some governments around the world, and that always ends up being a mistake when governments get involved and say, "Well, we can't allow this because it's anti-competitive." The competitive landscape is moving so fast that by the time the government says that, remember the government tried to break up Microsoft, and by the time they were about to do it, the internet hit and Microsoft was suffering, and then they said, "Oh, this no longer makes any sense." Yeah, and that's true here. And Figma needed to be part of Adobe, and I think I think Figma has a challenge. Because I don't need to use Figma actually. So people use Figma to generate lots of kind of predecessors to final work, right? I don't need to do that anymore. I can just say, generate the final work. And if I don't like it, you'll change it. Claude will change it for me.
Right.
So that skips that entire step, that interim step. And we're seeing this in coding. So it used to be until a year ago, it would help you with your code and it might write 50% of it and you'd have to edit it and it wouldn't compile. And now I can say, go write an entire program, front end and back end.
100%.
And I may come back 6 hours later and it's written 20,000 lines of code, front end and back end, and it's done. So now think about what happened. The code itself is an interim step that's no longer interesting to me as a human because I'm not going to look at all 20,000 lines, am I? No. Can't. The product works, I'm done. And if it doesn't work, I tell it to fix it. Yeah. So that interim step is going away. I'm going to give you a parallel to that. When coding first started in the 60s, we coded in the 50s and 60s, we coded in something called machine code or machine language, right? Those are ones and zeros, literally coded in ones and zeros. That's how you work. Then later we had assembly, and assembly was one level up, and you could write in a pretty basic, terrible language, but what it would do is it would write the machine code for you. behind those inputs. So machine code went away as something humans looked at, but it still exists to today. Like that's still there. And assembly is still there today because what like a high level language does is compile into assembly, but nobody looks at the assembly. So we've been there before, and now we're going to natural language that essentially compiles into C or Python or whatever. And we no longer look at the interim steps anymore.
Yeah.
Which goes well into what we're about to speak to because I don't know how to code. I can code now.
Yes, you can.
I literally
Everyone's
get
a coder.
Claude code and then my Claude chat. If I have questions on what to do in code and I'm going back and forth, it's teaching me how to do it. And I'm
100%.
just writing in natural language.
Yes, you are.
And it can come up. So obviously for that population of society, which there's a lot of coders, I would say, in the United States, this enhances them, but some would say could take away their job. And I think that's pressing more than any other jobs that people thought were going to get taken away, but that's the obvious one.
Yeah, I mean, customer support, QA, software QA. I mean, there's a bunch of these. But coding was one of them, and we're not seeing that. And let me tell you why. There's two things happening. One, I want to talk about because it ties to the book in terms of what's happening to the joy of coders and people whose jobs are changing, but why the job's not going to go away. So 2 years ago, everyone said, all the jobs are going to go away. We're going to need like one coder per company, and they're going to be the robot overlord, and that's it. But here's what actually happens. And it happened in your company. I can guarantee it. More people started writing code, essentially, even non-coders. You coders became 10 times more productive. And you now are delivering features faster than you ever delivered them. And do you really want to turn off that spigot and go back to the way it was and go, hold it, for less money, I can deliver slow again? No, because your competitors are going to also deliver fast. So what's happening is the delivery of features and bug fixes and all of that has sped up 2x, 5x, 10x, whatever it's going to be. And no one wants to get rid of that. So you need all these people to go 10 times faster, if that makes sense. Or you can get rid of all the people, go to one person and go back to the old way that you did it, but only have an aperture so large. So it turns out everybody's keeping everyone. Except for a few high profile,
which that could be for other reasons.
It was for other reasons, but nonetheless, they blamed AI.
Exactly.
Right? What they wanted to do is clean house, and they had some.
They're bloated.
And they said we're just going to do the following. But the fact of the matter is everyone is experiencing a speed up of the feature delivery and the bug fixes, and they're loving it. And we all have a backlog of stuff we wanted to do. And now, instead of never getting to it, maybe we get to some of these this year or next year. And, if you're the CEO of a company that's delivering technology, you're going, this is a godsend. This is why would I want to slow down again? So everyone's employed, as it turns out. It's fine. But here's what I'm hearing from coders and what we've heard really since the beginning of the year, since Claude, the latest Claudes came out, and they could really write 20,000 lines of code, is a coder goes home or, tells it to do something in the morning, and by night it's done and goes, what do I do? Like, I'm going to review this. I'm going to make sure it does what it was supposed to do. But my entire purpose was to code. I loved coding. That's what I do. And what I tell them, and what some of what the book tells them, we'll talk about the joy success cycle, is that actually didn't bring you joy. What actually brought you joy was finishing the project, delivering it, and seeing the smile on, whoever faces that you delivered it to, and then you found bugs and you went back and forth. But it was supposed to be the delivery of product, and you misinterpreted the fact that you thought they cared that you struggled to write 20,000 lines of code for 6 months. They never cared how you got there. No one cares how you got there. What they care about is how fast can you get there, and how fast can you deliver it to me, and how much it can meet my business requirements, right? That's what everyone cares about. And so all these coders mistook, look, I wrote this line of code. Isn't it cool? Nobody cares but you, actually. Literally no one in the world. No one in the world. And so the fact that a machine can do that now, and you can control the machine, means you're going to be 10 times faster. You're going to have 10 times faster. And so you get these great dopamine hits from the outcome, more, not less, even more, bringing you more joy. And so stop thinking that the joy was, I wrote this line of code, or I wrote this little riff in music, or I wrote this line in a play, or I wrote, the real outcome of a play or a musical is when it's on Broadway and the audience stands up at the end and says, it's the best thing I've ever seen. I win. How I got there, who cares?
Yeah.
And I know people are going to be listening to this and they're going to write below and they're going to say, that isn't fair. We're creatives. And, and I've had this argument with musicians. But the bottom line is you need to find your joy in the outcome. You need to find your joy in the output. If you find your joy in just writing every line, good for you. No one's taking that away from you. But you might not get paid to do that anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because who's going to pay a coder to write every line?
Yeah.
They're gone.
Well, I think too, it's a perception thing. Like our engineering, our dev team, our VP of engineering, Bob, has really embraced it and changed the perspective on it. So, okay, like they get put in front of the company on a biweekly basis and are expected to show new features. And if they don't, it's a little bit more stressful of a situation, but they want to produce, and their output is what brings them joy because they're seeing the questions that we're asking, the engagement it's bringing. So yeah, we see that very often.
Yes, but those features might have taken you months if it was 5 years ago.
100%. They can crank things out on a daily basis. And
literally, you go, hey, but we need this new feature that's really important to this customer. And they come back in an hour and say, hey, I've got an MVP and it's pretty darn good. And you go, ship it.
Yeah.
When you walk over to their part of the office and talk to them, none of them are really coding anymore.
No.
They're just, they have multiple agents up on the screen.
Right. Or what's wild.
And they're just kind of the conductor behind.
Yeah. That's right.
Or what's wild is they'll go to lunch or you have a conversation with them and then they come back and they're like, oh, sweet, it's done.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, whoa, okay.
That's right.
You're
I
doing
set it up
the
and
whole
it's done.
time.
And no one's looking at the code and you don't have to. You still have to do QA. I mean, there's still work to do.
100%.
But no question. So anyway, I'm going to hold up the book. Can I hold up the book?
Go for it.
The Joy Success Cycle.
The Joy Success Cycle.
Little feedback monitor. The Joy Success Cycle basically says that in order for you to have the most success, success doesn't bring joy, joy brings success. So if everything you do, like you come to this podcast, you go, I'm going to come here with joy, which I know you do because you're a podcast and you invented the darn thing and he lets you keep doing it. So you're going, this is very joyful. But if every task you do, including as a CEO, right? If every task you do, including when you got to fire people or you got to deal with an unhappy customer or, whatever, you got to find joy in that moment. And the more joy you find in everything you do and every task that you do during the day, the more successful you and your company will be at any level. You can be a C-level, you can be the janitor, it doesn't really matter. And so all of these people that wait their life to have joy after success are doing it wrong. And they're not finding success because they weren't even joyful in their job.
Right.
And I'll give you one of the chapters in here is a very important rule. It's called the 1 complaint a day rule. And the 1 complaint a day rule is interesting because the average human, at least in the U.S., internal and external, right? Some are externalized, some are internalized, has about 100 complaints a day. From the time you get up, oh, my knees hurt. Oh, the breakfast is wrong. Oh, the weather. Oh, the whatever. I mean, and we're sort of born to complain. It's just sort of what humans did. And there's a reason for that because our ancestors that got us here were very worried about the lion eating them. And they were worried about stuff and complaining about stuff. And that was the world. I don't know if I'm going to have food today. We don't have any of those problems today, right? In the first world, we don't have any of those problems. We know where the food is. We know where Wegmans is in Pittsburgh. Right? We know how to get there. So we don't need to do that anymore. And so we gamify it and we say, look, if you want the most success, you cannot be tearing yourself down with these complaints because that takes your positive quotient or your positiveness down. Right. And finally, if you woke up at a 5 and now you're at a 0, you got to work yourself back up, hopefully to a 10. Because when you're at a 10 in positive quotient, everyone around you loves you. Everyone wants to be managed by you. Everyone wants to interface with you. Customers, all those things are good. You're going to be the most successful. And so we teach that. And then we show how you're going to start counting your complaints. And eventually over the course of days or weeks or maybe a month or two, you're going to limit yourself to 1 complaint a day. So if you do get out of bed and go, oh, my knees hurt.
It's out. You're done.
You're done for the day. And when you realize it's the last complaint of the day, you go, oh, shit. Okay, oh, shoot. So, and you start rethinking, okay, was it worth complaining about? And it turns out even internally, not worth complaining about.
Grand scheme of things, it's not.
Now, almost nothing is worth complaining about. Right. When you look at, there's gratitude books, right? And there's a little bit ties into that, which is we should certainly in the United States, not everyone, but 90-something% of people have gratitude for everything. When you wake up, first of all, you're alive. Have gratitude that you didn't die overnight, because the alternative, that was the only alternative. You're dead, but you're alive. And your day is going to be what you make of it. As joyful as you want it to be, as joyful as you want every task to be, whether you're golfing or at the desk or whatever it is. So, so we teach that. And the forward is by Goldie Hawn.
Oh, cool.
Goldie wrote the forward.
That's awesome.
And she, we've been friends for decades, and she, really taught me a lot about joy in her mindfulness program. She runs a program called Mind Up that works with schools. They work with 8 million kids on essentially having a better day at school is the best way to say it without getting into the details. And she looked at me many years ago, decades ago, and said, do you wake up with high dopamine every day? Is it just you and I? Because she's a high dopamine person. And then I said, I should look into this. Like, do we really have higher dopamine? Is that really a thing?
Yeah.
And probably isn't at wake up, right? But what we do is we've chosen to live our lives differently, and it's a managed process. So this book ends up teaching the managed process of how to live a joyful life every single day to lead to more success.
Yeah.
And you can get it on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and it releases on September 1st, but you can order it today.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
That's wonderful.
So one thing that I think I've suffered from, and people who are trying to ambitiously grow their career, is you get to a certain step and you always think, oh, well, I got to go higher.
Yeah.
I'll be happier. I'll
No,
be
you won't.
joyful.
No, you won't.
I've realized as I've gotten older, I'm like, you got to enjoy the ride while you're on it and be joyful. But it's still in the back of my head all the time. I got to get here. We got to get here. Wilmec's got to get here.
Look, there's nothing wrong in one's career wanting to advance their career, but I'll give a couple of pointers here. One, the worst job in the world is the CEO job. Be very careful about asking to be there.
Yeah.
It is the loneliest. It is the toughest. The CEO only generally gets to talk to the unhappy customers. The happy customers have been dealt with, and sales loves them and all that. It's when they're extraordinarily unhappy that it lands, and lands on your desk, lands on my desk. And you go, okay, this is really, this is hard. But I always look at those and say, what can I learn from this? What could we have done better to not lose them or whatever? There's churn in every business. How can we learn from that? But yes, of course you want to push the company forward. I would tell you, because I've spoken about this to very large companies, and they took on the Joy Success Cycle method, and they call me weeks later and say, this changed my entire sales team. Oh my God. So, I would say, give the book to everyone in the company and everyone read it, and they will all act differently around the water cooler, at work, with their customers. They will go, stop. I actually have to find the joy moment in this. I have, and it's an attitude changer. One of the things I used to teach the Dale Carnegie course in sales years ago when I first started in retail, and one of the things we talked about was selling attitude, and that in order for you to close deals or even have a real conversation with a customer, you have to walk in and bury everything that happened at home, the argument you had with your spouse, whatever it is, and your selling attitude has to be perfect and right on, with a smile and excited and happy to be there. And so that turns out that works for every employee. It works for everyone. And the more that happens, the better the company is, the more you will grow. There's no question about it.
That's awesome. Congrats.
Yeah,
I'm excited to read it.
Thanks. I'm excited to have you read it. I'm excited to have all your employees read it.
Yeah, September 1st. Wonderful. All right, we have already chatted for 50 minutes, so I'm going to start to wrap us up.
It's a short episode.
It is a short episode. Go ahead.
I guess we can talk about it. I wanted to get your take on AI in Rochester.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah, or the lack thereof.
Let's talk about it. Yeah.
In my opinion. I just don't. So we talked about the foundation models. We're obviously sensitive to it because we're an application level. So we have to be careful and make sure we're building our moat and being in a niche spot where the foundation doesn't come in and take it.
That's right. Yeah, the frontier model's unlikely to, but yes.
But I'm seeing we're at a time where you could build an application company for less cost.
That's right.
Just have an idea and you can go. That's never been in the history. You would need to get capital for engineers.
You have individual people that can build a $1 billion company today with one person at the helm.
So
and Claude will build it all.
So why are we struggling to build that ecosystem in Rochester? And in general, you might not know this. I certainly don't. I grew up here, but I've only been back here for 4 years. We have absolutely no startup ecosystem, venture capitalism, private equity. I shouldn't say no, but it's not very.
Okay, actually, Rochester is better than most medium-sized city metropolitan areas. Obviously, save New York or Boston or Atlanta or something.
Yeah,
but
take those
maybe Chicago. But other than those, Rochester is actually a pretty good place. So I know all the venture capitalists that are local.
Okay.
Most of them have smaller funds. They're meant to get things started here, but you're going to go to the West Coast for the big money.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There is some big money in town. Won't get into where that comes from, but I've raised $42 million in Rochester. Yeah. So there is bid for token here. That's one of our security products. That is an agentic security product as well as a human security product. So it is possible to raise real money here. If you have a real company and you have a real need and you're solving a real problem, it's not impossible. I think there is, I speak to the AI club at RIT twice a year. Those kids want to build companies. That's all they want to do. They want to build, 2-person companies that do all this stuff. And I think, if I'm a larger company, I'm very worried about 2 kids in a garage with Claude beating me out of my own business because they can do that today. Yeah. And you couldn't do it 5 or 10 years ago. So I think we have a better ecosystem than you think. It's, I'm at cities all around the country. Again, outside of a couple, Rochester's probably doing really well. We got U of R, we got RIT, and you got lots of grads coming out with lots of AI ideas. And look, some leave and they go to the West Coast. I get that. The center of the world today in AI is Silicon Valley. Yeah. It just is. But there is so much happening outside of that I think so. We have 2 or 3 VCs that matter in the Rochester area, and then we've got a family office that really, really matters in the Rochester area. That's what you've got. That's more than almost any other medium-sized city, right? And it's Rochester, Buffalo, Syracuse, kind of this Western New York. But go to the middle of Nebraska and see what happens. Nothing, right? Go to almost any state. Go to the middle of Florida, right? You don't find anything. Right. It's not that there aren't pockets. But, so I think we're doing better. Now, could we do even better? Yes, of course. We could have an entire organization around the Chamber of Commerce, maybe, that says we've got to have this thing that's going to push AI and push AI companies in this area. And those AI companies won't need a lot of money anymore, but they need other support. What I find is companies in this area, if they don't need a lot of money, what they do need is a lot of experience. They need people who've probably been in Silicon Valley, who've run tech companies, that can give them advice on how to go to market, and go to market's a big thing, and it's hard, and not everyone's going to make it, and what the risks are, and know that you're not always going to make it with their first company and, right? So I think advice is another thing that we could do a lot better on, and organize that in a way to make sure these startups are getting that advice. And lastly, U of R and RIT have incubators. They are not like MIT's incubator, Stanford's incubator, and they're trying to get better, and they're not quite modeled right, but they're trying. So, it's better than most, better than you think it is. It's not Silicon Valley, and there is no other Silicon Valley in the world.
Yeah. No. I mean, get that.
It's one place. All the money is there. Yeah. The minute you need $10 billion to really go to market, you have to go there. There's not even New York. There's nowhere else to go. That's where you go. So it is what it is. But I think it's a decent ecosystem. I think we could make it better. It's a good point. All right.
Yeah. And that's why I think community leaders need to keep speaking out about it and encouraging that innovation.
I think there needs to be an actual organization that is, and maybe there is, and I don't know them well, but there is kind of the Upstate Venture Association, all that. But we probably need kind of an innovation hub where if you're starting a company, you go there.
Yeah.
You go there, you talk to the people. There are experts who can help you. There are other CEOs who can help you.
Right.
People, when you're 22 or 25, whatever, you need help to start a company.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
Right.
You just need help.
Yeah.
So I think we do a better
Support
job
system.
with that. Yeah, support system. Yep.
Anything else?
No, that's great. Good way to end it.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
All right. Kevin, we obviously chatted about a lot today, but you're working across a wide range of businesses and initiatives right now. Is there anything that we didn't chat about that you'd like to bring awareness for our listeners?
Well, we didn't talk about Token, and Token is a Rochester company. It was founded in Rochester, spun out of RIT. I stepped back in as the CEO not too long ago, so I'm doing that among many other things. And Token is a believer in biometric assured identity. Basically, it says that in the era of AI, the only way to be sure that you are you is today with your fingerprint. It's not face and it's not voice, obviously, because AI does those really well. But it's your fingerprint because we don't store those in the network. And so we make a variety of products that don't let you log on to your system without your fingerprint, without you being within 3 feet of the logging on computer, and without being what's called domain bound. So you can only log into the original domain that you registered at. And that shuts down about 90% of all of the AI hacks, which are identity hacks today, including the one that happened at Kodak recently, including every 5 or 10 we read about every day. It's incredible. So 96,000 accounts were hacked, as Microsoft reported just a few months ago, hacking the Auth app. And it's not really a hack. It's a social engineering hack. You think you're logging into Microsoft, and so you say, yeah, it's me. It's not you. It's the hacker that's logging in. Look, that's a great company. It's based in Rochester. It's funded in Rochester. I'm excited about that. And we recently released our agentic protection. So one of the things with agents is agents like to break through their barriers and find a way to please their humans, right? Yeah. And so we believe you have to put gates that are you can't get around in certain places that require a human with biometrics to approve. The reason biometrics is you want to know absolutely it was that human who did it, because I can't question it went to this email and someone else did the email or someone else hacked the email. So, no, I want to know it was you that approved that payment over $1 million. It was literally you with this or with another device that we make, and so we make this kit. Yeah. And it's a kit with MCP, and it ties in and it locks these gates to this and or any of the Token products. Yeah. And that payment doesn't get processed until you use your fingerprint and say it's me, and no one can hack that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
Yeah. So NHIs, which are non-human identities as well as human identities, biometrics is a great thing. The last thing it does is psychologically is really important. What we find is humans who do that go, oh, I better make sure this, because like my biometrics are going to be registered with this. And if something goes wrong, it's literally on me. I can't say, well, maybe someone else did it. Maybe I didn't see it. So there's a psychological thing that by the time you do this, it's literally you, and you better be right because you're on the hook for the action of that agent going forward. Yeah. And I think that's why biometrics are going to be important. Look, we're all sitting in a room. We know we're real, but on Zoom, there have already been many instances of fake, interactive deep fakes that tell people to send money somewhere, or tell them to release an email, or give them, And again, we're going to need biometrics there and a little biometric flag. So we're working with all of the video conferencing companies on this, on putting a biometric flag that says you registered, it is you, it's your biometrics, and you're alive. You're alive. It's the real person.
So those are the type of customers
we sell to banks. We sell to financial services. We sell to people like you. We sell to software companies. Yeah. So everyone's hackable. And if you don't want a hacker to get your data and release it to the wild, or charge you $1 million to not release it to the wild, if you're not using biometric assured identity, you will be hacked. I can guarantee it. One stat that's really interesting, San Diego State did this with 19,500 employees, and they trained some and didn't train some. Basically, they looked at training, how much training would stop AI phishing attacks. It turns out it only changes the outcome by 2%. That is, if you have 1,000 employees, I can guarantee you, as I sit here, 35% will be swayed by an AI phishing spoofing attack. Yep. And if you train the heck out of them, it's still 33%, which means don't bother. You're asking the employee to be the firewall. Yeah. And they're a terrible firewall.
So all our certifications we have to get for all our cloud solutions, SOC, ISO, PCI, all that, is pretty much, if you look in the background of it, it's training stuff.
Yeah, I know. So at Token, we have to go through all this training. And I'm laughing at it because the training says, here's how you might recognize a deepfake. Here's how you might recognize an AI phishing. And I go, the stats are very clear. Humans, no matter how much you train them, will recognize an AI phishing attack. They won't recognize it because it comes from someone they know. It gets through the phishing filters. It works every time. They won't recognize IT calling them, especially at a big company. Hi, this is Jim in IT. We think that your account's been hacked. Let's go in and take a look. And they'll let them in and take a look, and it's the hacker. This is not stoppable, but it's stoppable with biometrics. It works every time. So I think we have a winner here in Rochester. That's what I'd say.
Good.
Token Core.
Token Core. All right. Wonderful. Well, thanks, Kevin. Appreciate you joining us again on the Will Mac Wire. For our listeners, if you're interested in connecting with Kevin or following more of your work, you can find him on LinkedIn at Kevin Surace. You can visit his website, kevinsurace.com, and you can even chat with his digital twin.
That's true.
And ask him the podcast questions that we asked and see how it shapes up. Right. And then last but certainly not least, Kevin, congratulations on your new coming book, The Joy Success Cycle, for our listeners. That'll be coming out September 1st, but you can order it now.
You can.
Wonderful. Well, thanks, Kevin. We appreciate you joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Will Mac Wire. If you like today's conversation, make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts or watch full episodes on our YouTube channel. You can also learn more about Wilmac Technologies and our work in customer interaction technology at wilmactech.com. We'll be back soon with more conversations with the drivers, those shaping our industry and those building right here in Western New York. See you next time.